Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. You're listening to Java with Jimmy.
Good morning, everybody. Excuse me. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, May 10th, 2022. And we are just about approaching 3 weeks with getting the date right. Just my little thing, because often I'll forget the date. Don't ask me why. But good morning, everybody. It is Testimony Tuesday. We're going to go in and say hello to folks because a few folks hit me up and was like, what time are you talking about the Black Boston Poly exactly? So I can try to tune in. I'll pull over. I'll sneak out of work. I'm like, okay. But let's go in and say good morning. We're going to discuss a few things. I'll just say that as I've shared in this space before, that and trauma may be a strong word, but the thing that I'm dealing with, it does make you take into consideration a lot of the reasons why being Black and moving in Boston Poly is interesting for a lot of us. And I'll go into some more context later, but we're going to talk about that because I just need to share some things. And in reference to me and you know, I say traumatized. You all know, as I've shared before, when I'm dealing with trauma, I either go on attack or serve. And so I'm trying to find a medium to serve the community just by sharing my experience. And also for me, it's a little bit cathartic just to share some things and get some things off my chest. But within that, there's also a level of information sharing about the experiences or the experience rather of those that attempt to advocate and move within what's known as Boston Poly in our city. And so we're going to get into that in just a few moments. We're also going to talk about that's really about it, but we're also going to talk about Kevin Samuels a little bit more. TMZ released the 911 call. There were some posts and petty that, you know, his companion or whom he was with during his demise, you know, did not was different from the criteria that he often laid out for folks, you know, to be beautiful and, you know, talked about women's weight and looks and age and all that other stuff. And so there's been some speculation that the woman that he was with did not meet that criteria. So let's go in and say good morning. Good morning to Mom. Excuse me. Good morning to Mama Java. Good to see you in the room. She's saying good morning to the Java babies. Also, Pastor Marion, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Sharon Cornelius. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you in the room. Also, Ma saying good morning to Rob and Keys. Rachel Clinton is in the room. Yes, a little different music. Got a couple of things coming. Naraki, beautiful. Good morning. Good to see you in the room as always. Tasha, good morning. Good to see you Sunday. Good to see you. Also, who else did I just see pop in the room real quick? Lasagna, I thought I saw your name. Good morning. Good to see you in the room. Good morning. I love how you all are just, y'all go in and forget about what's going on, and y'all just like you're walking into a cafe. There's somebody up front talking, and y'all are walking into the tables. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Long time no see. Good to see y'all. Good to see y'all in the room, and it's much appreciated. Auntie Java, good morning. Good to see you in the room as well. Good to see you in the room. Kelly, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Good to see you. So let's kind of go into it. And I was sitting here this morning typing out notes, and I said, uh-oh, this is going to be serious on a couple of levels. And Dina, you just happened to be in the room at the right time today, this morning. I'm sure you'll enjoy, agree with, may push back on some of the commentary. But as I said before, during or right after the election, I was talking with some political pundits, and I'm like, for many of us who, and when I say pundits, folks like myself, I see Wawa in the room. Good morning, bro. Good to see you in the room, sir. Folks like myself and others that advocate and move in spaces of what's called activism. It oftentimes involves us conversing with, having rapports with some relationships with elected officials and those that are in key municipal, county, and state positions. And the realization of the fact that often some of Black Boston and those that move in Boston Poly who are Black, we entertain these folks, we speak to these folks. Some of us advise these folks for free. And if you were to go on OCPF, which is the Office of Campaign and Political Finance, you would find that they pay out and dish out thousands of dollars to other political pundits and commentators, consultants, and advisors. And those of us that are Black do that often for elected officials who are Black, and a lot of times who aren't Black. And in that conversing and in that journey of advising and folks may or may not become successful in an election, there's a cadence, there's a belief, right, wrong, or indifferent. And we know that this is a part of Boston Poly. If you do things on the campaign, paid, not paid, have an active role, there is sort of this expectation that you would either, if desire, go in, or you can just put it on your resume as being a part of a team that got someone into office. This is not about one election. This is not about one elected official. This is just about a process that we as Black Boston have not done well at the fall. I won't say we haven't done well at the follow through. We have not put ourselves in better positions to win post the election. And I can only talk for some folks that when you attempt to advise still at the level that you were engaged during the campaign in the election, when you attempt to still have that same sort of cadence by experience, and often by other pundits with whom you converse, and then often those that are either coming off the campaign or going in the administration. And so, James, where are you going? It just baffles me rather that this is a systemic thing. This is not just, as I said before, with one elected or one individual. And many of us in Black Boston Poly have to figure out a way to do better. And let me put out this disclaimer with all due. Am I confident in my KSAs? What I call my knowledge, skills, and abilities? Hell yes, I am. But we have to own the fact that there may just be unaware. Well, there was awareness of your KSAs during the election and the campaign, but for some reason, that same level of engagement changes once the electorate or the person is successful. And I've really had to lately, and let me set some context for some folks as I've talked to some folks individually, because I've been a little in my feelings, anxiously frustrated over the, well, let me be honest. If you really want to know, let's go all the way back to 2013. So I said it's systemic. It's not an individual. And let me say some other things here. And I said this in 2012 and 13. There are some advantages and there could be some perceived disadvantages of having a mayor that was in a term for 20 years. Disclaimer. Was I in a Menino administration in the beginning? Do we automatically believe that Menino didn't have any gaffes and coming in, getting his footing to be successful to go on for another 3, 2, 4 terms, 20 years, 20 years, 4 years, 4 years. Flynn finished out. Anyway, more elections. And so we have, again, this is systemic. Those of us that grew up in the era of a 20-year mayor are just used to some things. And I said in 2012 and 13 that even if Barack Obama became the mayor of Boston, because of coming off a 20-year reign of a mayor, anyone that went through transition would go through a lot. There is a term called the Menino way. So much so that the last song sang at his funeral was I Did It What? My Way, if you watched and are familiar. And so the advantage of that is, right, wrong, or indifferent, a lot of people didn't agree with the fact that Thomas M. Menino had his thumb or had a pulse, rather, on everything that was going on in the city. He would often say that he wasn't the smartest, but he was smart enough to get the right people around him that would advise him from their skills back to knowledge, KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities. He was smart enough to get the right people around him. And I'll be honest, there were times where Mayor Menino would be frustrated and would come out and not verbatim, but would say, if you're not doing it for the residents and it's the right thing to do, there was enough political savviness to say, at least do it for me and the politics that comes with it. Can I be honest? The first thing was the residents. But in his frustration, he would be like, and you don't understand that not only was the residents impacted, but you don't understand the political impact. And so there has to be a savviness enough with those that even if it's not because it's the right thing to do, at least do it because it's of political benefit to your candidate or to your boss. The downfall of a 20-year reign is that there's a level of expectation and a certain way that, well, there are gaffes, that a lot of things fall through the gaps rather in the Menino administration around our values, around certain policies. A lot of people said he was favorable toward development. A lot of people had issues and whether he really demonstrated or not, if he cared for Black people. Have that opinion, but one of the disadvantages that I have to take into consideration is that we got to give grace when there is transition. Let's just be real. But let the grace be applied where the grace is needed. And when you have KSAs or people around you with the proper KSAs and people around you that are going to tell you the truth, that are not motivated by their own individual gain, And that at the crux and the foundation of their public service, it's the residents of a municipality, of a county, and a state that must remain the priority. And while loyalty, we know that Marty Walsh was known for loyalty almost to a fault, where didn't really get an assessment around, I would believe, Kim, Janie, had loyalty for those that helped her, transition, and maybe they went into positions during her time as interim mayor. I can presume and observe that Michelle Wu moves in some loyalty as well. And as I said before, loyalty, right, wrong, indifferent, the way Boston Poly works, you're big, you make major moves on the campaign, it lines you up for a position or a role later. Let me go back to a little Boston Poly, or a little bit of the trauma that comes with Boston Poly. There are some Black folks that are often told, hey, if successful, I want you to do this. If successful, I want you to help with that. And when they're successful, my experience has been on many occasions, I'm being honest with y'all, I've had to sit with this and realize, and over the past, again, going back to 13, but there have been some anxious frustrations of late that just had me really sitting yesterday and just really thinking about a few things that, as I was getting ready to say before, I don't want to be all over the place. We have to, I was referring to KSAs. We have to give relevant validity to the fact that the perception of the knowledge, skills, and abilities, maybe once they get in office and, coming off a learning curve, may not view the knowledge, skills, and abilities in the same manner. And so therefore the level of engagement, not for no filthy lucre, not for no individual job or I need this or the hookup or whatever, but for influencing policy, for taking, and I'll talk about my experience, and it varies depending on the year I'm talking about. But if you want to keep it 100, and this is some context of what I had to think about yesterday, I've been doing advocacy and activism before I was a teen, a tween, and a preteen. I told y'all it started sitting in a church meeting. They were talking about all the stuff for the year, and there was no conversation about the young people. So I rallied up a couple of young people, and we wrote a note, and then we got somebody to run it up to the deacons in the front and like, hey, what's up with the young people? I want to say I was about 11. Well, yeah, about 11 years old. Then there was my time at the cave. And so there's 40 years, technically, of moving in this space, and I have to own that. Let me touch on another thing real quick when we're talking about age and experience. Any transition can be interesting. You are coming in possibly new. You're coming in with new people. You're coming into an environment where people don't know what's going to happen. They're anxious and nervous. And one of the other dynamics that comes up in a transition is what we call legacy staff and what we call newbies, or those just coming in. And I saw a comment from someone referring to a good leader. A good leader fosters an environment that appreciates the work and the legacy staff with infusing new innovative ideas without disregarding and dissing those that have been there, those that have held it down, those that have got some things over the line. And for the things that did not get over the line, that's where you look at the new approaches and innovations from bright, new, maybe not necessarily even young, but just new people in these municipal, county, and state and federal spaces. I want to be very specific so no one says that I'm calling any one particular person out. I'm talking about systemic issues when it comes to Black Boston Poly. And I'm saying Boston, so that may infer or may reference to local, but it's municipal, it's county, it's state, and it's federal. Just a thought that I had too. We got to ensure that when our wonderful electeds of color go into these administrations, that they have people in top role positions that look like them and of color too. And that's across the board. So getting back to my point, we have to understand that there just may not be an appreciation or the appreciation for the knowledge, skills, and abilities has shifted for whatever reason. Here's another thing I need to just talk about a little bit. Communicate. Chris Sumner said this to me years ago. When it comes to communication and elected officials and campaigns in communicating with the Black community, what did he say? You have to saturate us with communication and information. One of the worst things, and I can only speak from my experience, one of the worst things that I have experienced and has messed, I'm going to be honest with y'all. I know it's not Mental Health Monday. I've had to put in measures to ensure that external influences don't influence my self-esteem. What I know I have the ability to do, get accomplished, knowledge base, all of that. But here of late, as a Black man, and I'll say in this city, because it's not just politics, a lot of it. And I'm going to share something with you all about me and politics. It's just been a very, very interesting journey. And let me say this, not just with the electeds, but with us. Talked about legacy staff and newbies. Let's talk about how we are not intentional in the Black community in general. But when it comes to passing the baton around leadership and advocating and activism, I said before that this generation, I used to say that our generation was just going to take the baton if it's not passed to us. These young people today, they don't want the baton. There's a part of them that feels like the baton has just been getting tossed around and we're not making it to the finish line. And so within our own community, we have to, it's not just politics, but we have to figure out how to appreciate the elders and also the new energy and innovation and approaches of the young people. Take it back to the Bible. I said it in 2020 when there was all this chatter about the young people just got energy and we know what to do. It's called the old because they know. He's called the old because they know. Called the young because they're strong and the old because they know the way. But some of our young people are like, yo, y'all been in the way for some time and we're still picking up the issues and you haven't got them over the line yet. So some of them are like, hey, we're just going to do us. And so it is imperative that we learn to, across the board, balance. And this is where leadership comes. And you know, during 2020 and the Black Lives, I'm running my mouth a lot, excuse me. During the Black Lives, the initial Black Lives Matter movement, there was this term of leaderful, that the old model of one leader or one or two leaders is not successful and it's personality driven. And so I can appreciate that. But right now, if the Black community in Boston had to have a come to Jesus meeting, who would call it? Wherein they have the greatest general respect. Unfortunately, I've done it. I've done it in the past. Here lately, my eyebrow goes up, but I'm trying to do better at saying, nope, I'm not going because. A lot of us activists and advocates and Black Boston Poly pundits and whatnot, we need to figure some things out. Because if we're, and I've done this up until the last few months, I would often put my experience aside for the betterment of the community. Attend a meeting, get on a call, respond to an email. Because at the end, and for me, in a world pandemic, am I perfect at it? No. I still get some pause when some certain names are brought before me now, but I sit there and I fight within myself like, James, if you're really committed to the community, then put that aside. But let's take it to the word. Know those that labor among you. And just a little bit of self-care. We can forgive, but if you look at the word forget in its original meaning, it means to act as if it never happened. I'm not there yet. The Bible also says, be wise to the enemy's devices. And so in this period of protecting our space, we also have to balance those that have caused us trauma, removing their ability and access to us. I'm about to wrap this up. I think I covered all my notes. I'll just end with this part on this. Insanity, or the definition, one of the definitions of insanity, is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. It's like beating your head up against a brick wall. I said a few moments ago that I was going to share some updates, Boston Poly, whatever. No, I'm not running for office. No. And that little buzz is picked up. Ooh, I was around one of the elders yesterday, and they was like, you need to run. And I'm nope, all set. No, I think it was Sunday at the march. I am in the valley of decision, in reference to, first of all, with campaigns, outside of being a little active on Michelle Wu's online. I wasn't out signatures and holding signs and all that other stuff. But I've kind of backed away from campaigning. And I am just in a valley of figuring out a better, may not be the best, but a better and more impactful way to move in spaces to where I feel my KSAs can enhance great work that's already going on and can help stitch up the net so other things don't fall through the cracks or the net. Maybe the analogy is putting some cement. I don't know. Fall through the cracks. And so I've really, Dina, I love you, sis, and we respect one another. But I could tell you a good portion of folks, no. And I don't have an issue with that, but it just, I am just I'm in a valley of decisions, and some level of bewilderment, over the fact that we as Black Boston, and specifically in those that move in Boston politics, we have to do better. We may not, and Thaddeus said this to me, and it at first it aggravated me, but I don't think he's on, so don't tell him I'm talking good about him. That we don't have to be unified, but we can unify at certain times. There are people that do work in silos. Jesus Lord. There are people that do work in silos, and that's not all necessarily a bad thing. But what I wrote in my notes was, the work can be done in silos with the intention of unifying when we need our collective power. And so it y'all know when I stutter, it's serious. It is just frustrating to going back to campaigns and electeds and politicians and we can only, I'll use and this is some of the consideration I've had to wonder about these last couple of days or so, is We have to own, and I said in this campaign, this past campaign was one of the hardest for me, but the good thing that came out of it was that I realized that there is a flaw in my process of identifying a candidate that I will support. Because there's been 40 years of living in Boston, and let me just say this, I love my city. Shout out to the Celtics and the Bruins doing their thing, and the Red Sox that held it down for a few years, and it's just not about sports. 40 years made me realize that there are all types of, and I'll say entanglements, there are rapports and relationships with those of us that may have started out in youth work and advocacy and activism and things like that. And they chose a path to go in being elected, to go into government and ascend and move up. And I realized this past election that some of my relationships, some of my experience with some of the electeds, mayoral, and some other elections in the past, the experience heavily influenced my ability or heavily influenced the filter in which I supported them or not. And some of those considerations had a personal influence. I had to go back in the recesses of my mind. Did they follow up on policy? Did they return a text? Did they return an email? Did they show up to an event? Not mine or just mine, but do they show up? For incumbents, do they have policy in place? For newbies or new candidates, what has been their work in the community? What has been my rapport and relationship with them before they became a candidate? And so I had to realize in 2021 and be real that I need to figure out a mechanism in way to somewhat remove the personal experience and rapports, and in some cases a few relationships, to really try to give. And it was kind of too late when I realized it, because I had kind of made my choice, and I still believe in my choice for supportive mayor. There is anxious frustration, and I'm not going to go too deep into that right now, but let me just say this, and y'all know the gifts still move. If you're watching the news and keeping up with what's going on, COVID is definitely not over. Numbers are up in Boston. Numbers are up in Massachusetts. Numbers are up across the country. There are 2 new variants, and the economy is, I can't think of no other word. Well, I just thought of a few others. The economy is terrible right now. Baby formula is at a shortage. Food is more expensive. Gas is more expensive. If we as a Black community don't gird ourselves up and proactively prepare for what, if we're not careful, is coming this fall and winter, away from the politics, and we got to pay attention. My shoulders are up, so y'all know. This thing with abortion, and I know we got the Mothers Board, we got people of God in here that don't believe in abortion. I necessarily don't believe in abortion. However, let me be firm in the fact that I support and believe that women have a right to choose what it is they do with their body. And in that realm of life, and some of these states and legislatures are trying to accuse or going to try to prosecute the women for homicide. Let that be an issue between the woman and God. I am very concerned, and there's an inkling in my knower in the gift that I still possess, that there is a season coming quickly. And I've been telling people, we're going back to gift cards. We're going back to giving out food. If this thing does not flip, and based on our behavior as humanity, it won't. So, pull myself in a little bit. I was on the American Psychiatric Association, Massachusetts Society of a Psychiatric Society thing the other day, and I wound up just sharing with them. And Dina, you can appreciate this. The mental health needs of our little black and brown, black boys and girls over the next 5 to 10 years around dealing with issues of social conduct disorder. Dina, what's that other one? That aggressive something. I told them that in the next DSM, they're going to have post-pandemic ancillary diagnosis, pandemic-induced social conduct disorder. And then I put up a post the other day where Harvard did a study, and we know this, Black people experience the worst of every result of COVID, that the gap around education and the impact of remote learning, guess who's suffering the most? Those that are in impoverished neighborhoods and dealing with poverty. And though there's some interesting numbers around white folks dealing with poverty, we know that the biggest numbers, if you want to go across the diaspora, is us. And if you look 10 years out, if the education components aren't intact, how are these young people going to get employed? If their mental health is not intact and we're not, I gotta go. I think I covered all my notes as far as this piece. Well, we're not living in fear. And you can appreciate this from the vein and roots you come from. There's a handwriting on the wall. And I said before, if we don't flip it, but there is a handwriting on the wall based on our human behavior when it comes to the virus. And so it ain't fear. It's facts and preparation. Said a few minutes ago, be wise to the enemy's devices. And right now the enemy is lack of unity, COVID. And let me say this carefully. My awareness of a broad macro intentionality to ensure that we do well and come out on the other side of this okay. Ayana said the other day, yes, we got to trust God, but when we pray, we got to move our feet. The Bible says even that the poor will be with us always. Not that we have to be the ones poor, but somebody's going to be poor with us. How are we preparing to ensure to take care of them as a Black community, as a society? What are we, for those of us that are in key influential positions and close proximity to perceived power, what is it that we're doing to ensure that the values that we share, that the outcomes we need, so our community, along with others that are thriving, are moving in a more heightened and improved quality of life? I say this every once in a while, but please let us be reminded that advocacy, activism, ministry is based on one key foundational thing: our improved quality of life while here on this earth. I've been quoting the Bible a lot. Let's take it back to John 10:10. He came that we might have life and have that life more abundant and have life more abundantly. Somewhere in there, and I forgot, I'm a little rusty, but there's reference to the life here on earth. And so I'm gonna get ready to get up off of here. I told you I was taking May to really take some downtime and just figure some things out. I just looked down at one little note. I don't think I'm going to say that, or it may come up later. And I'll say this, and Dina, you'll appreciate this too. I seen him Sunday. Y'all know I don't rock with Gene Rivers. And someone had said to me, if we're going to come together, and they started running down some names, and my shoulders was starting to go up, and I was like, we have to do our best to try as hard as we can to unify around issues. And can some of us say that we can point to some behavior, some decisions, and some things that could be perceived by some or many that weren't favorable toward our community? That opinion's out there about me amongst a few people. And some, feel that they are valid. And are some valid either in naivete, I'll be real, either sometimes in emotion, naivete, or maybe here and there being a little bit petty and just, I don't care. I'll own it. But I guess the litmus test is a lot of people have noted my improvement. Even today, as frustrated and as emotional as I was the last few days, y'all know if this was about 4 or 5 years ago, this would have been a whole different life. And I'm saying that because when you can see that there's a shift and a change in someone's behavior, they've modified their behavior and how they're moving, it may make you a little more at ease in attempting to, quote unquote, give another chance, to attempt to work together, again. And so, we got a lot of work to do. I know, Sharon, it makes you laugh about Gene or whatever. Mark Scott waved hello. Gene was like, and I literally, y'all pray for me. I love my people, and I want to see us win. Do I have all the answers and every knowledge, skill, and ability? Does it weigh up to some others that have experience and whatnot? Probably not. But when you have, and let me just say this, a lot of folks that move in this space aren't paid. It's not their regular gig or job. It's because it's a passion. I told y'all before, I've asked God many times, take it. Do I want to care when someone's hurt and things like that? Yes. But my inability to let it go completely, and I'm working on it, because I have to also admit to you all, and a couple of the, I don't know if I haven't seen props on, but those that are close and around me have really been getting at me about my time and my focus. And I have not done well at staying focused. Getting this text, getting this phone call, internal, municipal, state, and county employees, external contractors, and folks that are frustrated with the city, state, and county. And I've been referencing to the past couple of weeks of decreasing access because y'all know, for one, I don't like talking on the phone. I just don't. If they brought back landlines, probably better. But and I'm getting comfortable with saying it and not feeling guilty about it. When I have to, I do. But how did I get on that? Oh, that I've been really chilling, putting my phone on do not disturb, because out of all the things I've referenced to for other people today, guess who has control over their actions? Guess who has control over where he expends his energy? And I really need to kind of take a step back and just reevaluate some things to make sure that the impact, because I told y'all, Thaddeus got on me the other day. What do you mean? I said, if I don't feel that there's an impact with this platform and how I'm moving, wonderful JJ, y'all see here in the gray concrete wall next to the green screen, a little ring light you can see in my glasses because I haven't adjusted it right. I'll pack it up, donate it to somebody that I know, some young people that are doing stuff in the community. I'm not saying that's the case. I know we're having an impact, but it needs to be increased. It does. And that thing that I mentioned before, we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared. I guess that's it for me today. Kind of on a couple of different subjects. I listened to the 911 call from Kevin Samuels. And I said before, listening to the call, and I've said this before, even in reference to people, that kill our loved ones, that shoot and kill them. They are a human being. And somebody, somewhere, loved that person that shot. And somebody, somewhere, loved Kevin Samuels. And the thought I had in listening to the 911 call was, if it was anybody else, to listen to how the 911 responders and the ambulance company or whatever was handling it, I think if it was anyone else, there'd be a buzz about protests. There'd be a buzz about there needs to be an investigation. And you all can Google and TMZ and search and listen to it. But hearing that woman's distress, even though I pointed to the fact that folks are joking about, her, what is the word? Her appearance or something like that. Listening to that thing, I was like, wow, and so somebody loved this man. And so I'm going to say something that I might get some text about or whatever. Pray for his family. Pray for those that loved him, and pray for those that hated him, because they need love too. The other thing is, and y'all know, not as much, but before the pandemic and when I was traveling back and forth on the Red Line, when I tell you that I used to beat the MBTA up on Twitter before Michelle was mayor, I know that transportation was her space, and I would tag her. Excuse me. Jesus Lord, this is more. Well, I'm usually sipping coffee. Y'all know this was serious, because some of the things I said could have rightfully been followed up by a sip. Maybe that's why my throat is so dry. But I'll just say that the feds are looking at the MBTA and concerns about their safety, from the runaway train a couple of years ago to a couple of other things, the Green Line crashing and all this other stuff. And so MBTA is under the microscope of the federal DOT, which was my first job. When I was in high school, I worked out in Cambridge at the Federal Department of Transportation as a clerk typist back in the day. And I said before a little bit, but shout out to the Celtics that are holding it down, and Big Al getting it done. And so that's it for me today. Hold on. Where is your water? It's actually juice in the cup today, because I drank my cup of coffee earlier up just pondering over what I was going to talk about. Or Keys, the person that was killed lately. There's just so much. Asia, good morning. Good to see you in the room. And Charlotte said the MBTA needs to be up under the federal government. I really love y'all. I've been out. Y'all know I'm transparent. Folks going back to work and numbers have been interesting. And so that is an influence on, some decisions I need to make about time and going back to in-person, not back to, but doing some in-person shows, maybe at 9 a.m. somewhere, or in the evening, and record them and we play them the next day. But it's good to see some folks that here of late haven't been able to be in the room as much because of work or whatever. I've seen Stacy a few times the past couple of days. And I saw Asia, who often lets me know that, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it, but I'll watch it later or whatever. Asia, appreciate you. And she jumps right in. And Heidi, love you, Teresa. Tell them good morning. You got Teresa has a set of twins and she calls them Hansel and Gretel. I call them double E's, Ella and Ethan. Beautiful, beautiful children. I'm going to get ready to go, guys. I actually have a 10:30. For those of you that filled out the MGH, Your Healthy Java survey, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you haven't, you got until about 10:15 because I could probably aggregate the results again. Oh my goodness, look who's in the room. Nichelle Mungo, the songstress, the psalmist, the teacher, the Berkeley alum that just, not alum, Berkeley tenured staff that just celebrated 10 years a few months ago. Hey, Nichelle, good to see you in the room. I lost my train of thought. I told y'all this is why I don't pay attention to the. Auntie Java wrote a dissertation. Get used to the fact that we will live with COVID from some form for a long time. It will continue to mutate as long as it can find a host body by people not masking up and being congested in closed environments. Wake up people and smell the coffee. And also get vaccinated. Get boosted. And if you're eligible, get the second boost. Asia said about to do it now. Nichelle, Heidi saying hi, Nichelle. Professor for 15 years? How can you be a professor for 15 years and you're only 25? Sharon Cornelius, that black woman, I forget her name, quit, used to do the run, the MBT. Beverly. I don't remember her last name, but I don't know if she's at the Feds now. Let me and I know somebody used to work for her. And I had this meme up when I got back to Boston from New York. Beverly was right. They had an issue with her because she got up and basically told the governor that the system is one of the oldest in the country. It's dilapidated and y'all need to fix it. And not many days hence, it was evident. Charlotte, the black doctor shortage is real. If you have children, youth who love science and Charlotte, the nursing shortage some years ago, and now, I tell y'all, and it doesn't even, how can I say this respectfully to the things of God? Giftings help in some spaces where if you just have lived and observed human behavior, the way government moves, the way people move, understanding that we got a novel virus, without the word of knowledge and word of wisdom. And maybe I'm, because I know one of my gifts, I see that's for whatever reason, that's part of my gifting. And I just, not to get back on that, but we gotta get prepared. Medical staff is short. Our teachers are burnt out. And so this is why it behooves us in the black community to come together and shore up, take the mentality of Tulsa, of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, take the mentality of working amongst one another, disregard the mentality of colorism, disregard the mentality of whether, you're of African American, but immigrant background and all that other stuff. We got to come together. Tito Jackson said at Chuck Turner's funeral, the cavalry is not coming. We are the cavalry. All right, I'm definitely really getting ready to go. And Auntie Java said it. It's real. People are getting burned out. And Auntie, thank you, because I'm not burned out, but I'm hot. Charlotte, there's a documentary called Black Men in White Coats. My husband showed it to me. Even down to Your Healthy Job, I have to figure out how to make that more educational. You all, shared your comments on the survey. Again, if you did not fill out the survey, did I delete it? Go here and please fill out the survey. My meeting's at 10:30. I can aggregate any new survey responses in like 10 minutes. Thank God for Microsoft Forms. But please go ahead and I'll put it in the comments before y'all get me to make it much easier. Ooh, I sounded like a Bostonian there. Easier. We are doing jwj.info/your healthy Java SUR. And y'all beat me up the other day. Can somebody just click that and see if the link is working? If you have watched Your Healthy Java, someone was honest. I just watched for the first time and they gave their opinion. And so, yeah. Miss T, you got it right. We need to cultivate. And there is so, y'all, not only can I see what's coming, but I also see from an asset base. We are some of the most talented, innovative, gifted people, and we got to cultivate within our own communities. Teresa, thank you. Pastor Marion, I said to the Black clergy here in Boston over 10 years ago, they need to get together and do a public apology to the city. Thanks, Asia. Thanks, Keys. Thanks, Sharon. Now, all of y'all that said the link works, have y'all taken the survey? Most of the names I seen there, I presume you did. But if you didn't, go back to the link and take the survey, please. Okay, I'm done. And I'll be honest, I feel a little bit better because I tried to journal this stuff out. And what was in here, my hand, it wasn't doing enough. And trying to type it, you know, I have a habit of typing and then going back and fix the typos and then lose my train of thought. So thank y'all for listening this morning. Hopefully it was helpful to you to motivate us, come together and do better. All right, I'm getting ready to get out of here, guys. It is 9:59 and y'all stayed in here this morning, Jesus. Lasagna, where's the benediction? You know, we don't, as long as Lasagna says, have a good day on purpose. Speaking of on purpose, Annette, who in 2020 would often come in and say good morning on purpose, she graduated. We got to celebrate her. She's not in right now, but if she goes back and watches, I hope she sees this. Shout out to all the graduates that are graduating in spite of what's been going on the past couple of years. You did it. You got across the line. You got that degree. You got that diploma. For those that are moving up, you know, kindergarten, middle school, all of that. Shout out to all of you. I don't see Lasagna giving a benediction, but we'll take Elder Heidi's. Have a great day. No need to bounce. Need to bounce to a meeting. Heidi, thank you. Thanks, Pastor Marion, for saying congratulations to Annette. All right, folks. I'm tired. That means that this was a good conversation. Thank you, and we will see you guys tomorrow morning. Back. We Need to Know Me by myself. Yes, Ma. I'm good. I'm good. So, all right, y'all have a good day. Thanks for tuning in. And y'all keep Props and Katie in your thoughts. They are shepherding and nurturing 8 dogs, 6 puppies, the mama and the daddy. And so keep them in your thoughts and send encouraging energy their way so they can go ahead and take care of them beautiful little dogs. Props posted a picture. Props McFly here on Facebook. You can go see it there. All right, y'all. All right, 2 more comments and I'm definitely leaving. Okay, so folks are praying and saying goodbye. All right, then I got my release. Let's get out of here and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.